The door slammed shut behind me with a cold finality, the echo ricocheting off the barren walls of the room. I spun around, disbelief and fury surging through me as the metallic click of the lock sealed my fate. My father stood on the other side, his face pale but resolute. "This is for your own good, Claire," he said. "For my own good?" I shouted, slamming my fists against the door. "You locked me in here. What's wrong with you?" Behind him, my mother averted her eyes, her lips trembling as if she wanted to say something but didn't dare. My younger sister, Lily, peeked out from behind her, her expression a mix of guilt and fear. They left without another word, their footsteps fading down the corridor. I was 24 years old, a successful woman with a career, friends, and a life I'd built on my own terms. But none of that mattered to my family anymore, not after the accusations. I sank to the floor, my mind racing through the events of the past week. My father's company, a tech empire he had built from nothing, had been hit by a devastating data breach. Trade secrets worth millions were leaked to competitors, and the fallout had been swift and brutal. It wasn't long before Aaron, my cousin and my father's right-hand man, discovered an email trail pointing to me as the culprit. The evidence was fake. I knew it, and deep down I suspected Aaron knew it too. But he had always resented my position in the family, envying the trust my father had placed in me. "Claire," my father had said, his voice heavy with disappointment. "How could you? After everything I've done for you?" I had pleaded, begged them to believe me. But Aaron's evidence was damning, and my family was too shaken to see the truth. The room they locked me in was cold and unwelcoming, its bare walls a stark contrast to the warmth of the home I had grown up in. A narrow cot was pushed into one corner, a small window with iron bars too high to reach offered a sliver of light, and a bucket in the corner served as a cruel reminder of my captivity. I paced the room, my anger growing with every step. How could they do this to me? I wasn't a child, and I wasn't a criminal. But no matter how many times I replayed the argument in my head, the outcome was always the same. My family had chosen to believe Aaron over me. By the second day, desperation set in. Food was slid through a slot in the door twice a day, and no one spoke to me. My voice was raw from shouting, my fists bruised from pounding on the unyielding steel. I realized then that no one was coming to save me. If I wanted to clear my name, I'd have to do it myself. I began searching the room, inspecting every crack and crevice for something, anything, that could help me escape. It was beneath the cot that I found it, a loose floorboard. Underneath the floorboard was a notebook, its cover worn and the pages filled with hurried, messy handwriting. As I flipped through it, my blood ran cold. The notebook wasn't mine, but the contents were damning. Plans for the data breach, detailed accounts of bribes and blackmail, it was all here, and Aaron's name was scrawled across multiple pages. My hands trembled as I realized what this meant. Aaron hadn't just framed me. He had been plotting against my father's company for years. The notebook was my lifeline. If I could get it to my father, he'd have to believe me. But first, I needed to get out of this room. I returned to the loose floorboard, prying it up further in hopes of finding more. Instead, I uncovered a narrow, dark tunnel leading down into the unknown. It wasn't exactly inviting, but it was my only option. Grabbing the notebook, I slipped into the tunnel, my heart pounding as I crawled forward into the darkness. The air in the tunnel was thick and damp, the walls close enough to scrape my shoulders as I moved. I had no idea where it led, but staying in that room wasn't an option. The further I crawled, the more I noticed strange markings carved into the walls, symbols and diagrams that looked ancient and cryptic. My unease grew, but I pressed on. After what felt like an eternity, I reached a small wooden door. I pushed it open cautiously, stepping into what appeared to be an old storage room. The room was filled with dusty boxes and cobweb-covered shelves, but it was what sat on the central table that caught my attention. A stack of old letters bearing my family's crest. I opened the top letter, and as I read, my heart sank. It detailed a secret my family had kept for generations. A deal made with a powerful, shadowy organization to secure their wealth and influence. The price? One family member sacrificed every few generations. And now it was my turn. The letters were brittle with age. Their ink faded but still legible. Each word seemed to press heavier on my chest, confirming a truth I had never imagined. My family's success wasn't built solely on hard work and ingenuity. It was built on a pact, a cursed legacy that demanded blood. The most recent letter, dated just 2 months ago, outlined the situation in detail. It mentioned the upcoming sacrifice, the name conspicuously absent but unmistakably referring to me. My father's note at the bottom sealed my fate. We have no choice but to protect the family. Anger boiled inside me, threatening to consume every rational thought. This wasn't about Aaron's schemes or a breach of trust. My family had condemned me to this fate long before the data leak. I folded the letters and shoved them into my jacket alongside the notebook. Every instinct told me to run, but the storage room wasn't connected to the outside world. It was another layer of isolation. I began exploring the space, searching for an exit. A rusted ladder in the corner led to a trapdoor in the ceiling, faint light seeping through the cracks. My breath quickened as I climbed, hope surging with every step. The trapdoor groaned as I pushed it open, revealing a small hatch in the middle of a grassy field. I emerged into the cool night air, the vastness of the forest stretching before me. Freedom was close, but so was danger. The stillness of the forest was unnerving. Every snap of a twig, every rustle of leaves sent my heart racing. I didn't know where I was, but I couldn't afford to stay put. As I moved through the dense woods, a chilling sound reached my ears. Distant voices. They were calling my name. Aaron's men. Panic gripped me, but I forced myself to keep moving, my footsteps as quiet as possible. The forest became a maze, the shadows stretching and twisting as moonlight filtered through the trees. I heard the crack of a branch too close behind me. They were gaining on me. Just as my lungs began to burn and my legs threatened to give out, I spotted it. A cabin, half hidden by the undergrowth. Its roof sagged, and the windows were boarded up, but it was shelter. I darted inside, closing the door softly behind me. The interior was just as abandoned as it looked. Dusty furniture, peeling wallpaper, and an air of desolation. I pressed myself against the wall, clutching the notebook and letters tightly as I listened. The voices outside grew louder, closer. Spread out, one of them barked. She has to be here somewhere. I searched the cabin for anything that could help me defend myself. A rusted poker by the fireplace was the best I could find. It wasn't much, but it was better than nothing. Footsteps creaked on the porch. My breath caught as the door handle jiggled. "She's not in there," one voice said. "Check anyway," another replied. The door swung open, and a flashlight beam swept through the room. I crouched behind a broken sofa, every muscle in my body taut. The man took a step inside, his heavy boots echoing against the wooden floor. Just as the flashlight's beam passed over me, a shout from outside drew his attention. "Hey, over here!" He turned and ran out, slamming the door behind him. My heart thundered in my chest as I waited, afraid to move. After what felt like an eternity, the voices faded into the distance. I knew they'd be back. This wasn't over. As I prepared to leave the cabin, I heard a soft shuffle behind me. I spun around, poker raised, and came face to face with a man. He was older, his face weathered and lined, but his eyes were sharp and calculating. "Easy there," he said, holding up his hands. "I'm not one of them. Who are you?" I demanded, my voice trembling. "Name's Jack," he said, "and I think we might have a common enemy." Jack explained that he had been watching Aaron's men for weeks, tracking their movements and piecing together their plans. "I don't know the whole story," he said, "but I know enough to recognize you're in trouble." I hesitated. Trusting anyone felt dangerous, but I didn't have many options. "If you know about them, then you know I can't stay here," I said. Jack nodded. "You're right, but if you want to stop them, you'll need help. And lucky for you, I'm pretty good at dealing with guys like them." We spent the next few hours coming up with a plan. Jack's knowledge of the forest and Aaron's operations was invaluable. He showed me maps, marked with routes and hiding spots, and explained how we could evade capture. "We'll need to get this evidence to someone who can use it," Jack said, tapping the notebook. "You've got enough here to take Aaron down, but only if it gets into the right hands." I nodded, determination replacing fear. "Let's do it." Jack and I set out at dawn, moving through the forest with caution. Every rustle of leaves and snap of a twig set my nerves on edge, but Jack's calm presence kept me focused. We were heading toward the nearest town, where Jack claimed to have a contact who could help. But as we neared the edge of the woods, I couldn't shake the feeling that we were being followed. Before we reached the town, Aaron's men found us. It happened fast: shouts, gunfire, and a mad dash through the trees. Jack pulled me behind a boulder, his rifle steady as he returned fire. "Stay low," he barked. I clutched the notebook tightly, my heart pounding as bullets whizzed past. This was a fight we couldn't afford to lose. The forest echoed with chaos, shouts, gunfire, and the crunch of leaves under hurried steps. I crouched behind the boulder, every breath sharp and shallow, gripping the notebook like it was my lifeline. Jack fired back with precision, his calm demeanor a sharp contrast to the mayhem around us. "Claire," he yelled over his shoulder. "We can't hold here for long. You need to run." "I'm not leaving you," I shot back, my voice shaking. "You have to," he insisted. "They're not after me. They want you and that notebook. If they get it, everything's lost." I hesitated, torn between my survival instincts and the loyalty I felt toward the man who had risked so much to help me. Jack didn't wait for my response. He reached into his jacket, pulled out a flare, and launched it high into the sky. The bright light exploded above the treetops, momentarily disorienting our pursuers. "Go now," he barked. I didn't look back. I ran blindly through the forest, branches clawing at my face and arms as I pushed through the undergrowth. The sound of gunfire faded behind me, but I knew it wouldn't take long for them to follow. The forest grew denser, the trees pressing in on all sides. My lungs burned, and my legs screamed for rest, but I couldn't stop. Not now. Not when I was so close to exposing the truth. Up ahead, I spotted a river cutting through the woods. Without hesitation, I plunged into the icy water, letting the current carry me downstream. The cold was a shock to my system, but it masked my trail and gave me a fleeting sense of safety. When I finally dragged myself onto the riverbank, shivering and exhausted, I found myself at the edge of a small farm. A weathered barn loomed in the distance, its doors slightly ajar. I stumbled toward it, desperate for shelter. Inside, I found a woman stacking hay bales. She looked up, startled as I entered. "Who are you?" she demanded, eyeing me warily. "My name's Claire," I said, my voice hoarse. "I need help. Please." She studied me for a moment before nodding. "Come inside. But if you're bringing trouble, you'd better warn me now." The woman, who introduced herself as Martha, didn't ask many questions. She handed me a dry blanket and a cup of tea, her sharp eyes assessing me as I warmed myself by the fire. "I saw that flare earlier," she said. "Trouble in the woods?" I nodded. "They're after me. My cousin. He's trying to cover up crimes that could destroy my family and ruin lives. I have evidence, but I need to get it to someone who can help." Martha frowned. "Sounds like you've stepped into a hornet's nest." "Lucky for you, I know someone who might be able to help." Martha called an old friend, a man named Victor, who lived in the nearby town. He was a journalist, known for uncovering corruption and exposing those who thought they were untouchable. "We'll take my truck," Martha said. "Victor's place isn't far, but we'll need to keep a low profile." The drive to town was tense. Every passing car felt like a threat, every shadow a potential ambush. Martha's grip on the steering wheel was tight, her eyes scanning the road for signs of trouble. When we arrived at Victor's modest home, he opened the door cautiously, his face lighting up with recognition when he saw Martha. Victor listened intently as I explained everything, the accusations, the betrayal, and the contents of the notebook. When I handed it to him, his eyes widened as he flipped through the pages. This is incredible," he said, his voice tinged with disbelief. "If this is all true, Your cousin is looking at a prison sentence that will outlast his career. It is true, I said firmly, but we have to move fast. He has people everywhere. If he finds out we're here, Victor nodded. I'll start drafting the story tonight. This will hit every major outlet by morning. Just as Victor began his work, Martha's phone buzzed. She frowned as she read the message. They know you're here, she said grimly. Aaron's men are in town, asking questions. Panic surged through me, but Victor remained calm. We'll handle it. I've got a safe room in the basement. Stay there while I finish this. Martha and I descended into the dimly lit basement, the air thick with tension. The sound of tires screeching outside shattered the quiet. We heard heavy footsteps above us, voices barking orders. They're inside, Martha whispered. I clutched the notebook tightly, my mind racing for a way out. Suddenly, there was a loud bang as the door to the basement was kicked open. Run! Martha shouted, shoving me toward a hidden passage at the back of the room. The passage was narrow and dark, leading to an alley behind the house. I emerged into the night, my heart pounding as I sprinted down the street. Behind me, I could hear the chaos unfolding inside Victor's house. I didn't stop running until I reached the bus station. The next morning, Victor's story was everywhere. Headlines screamed Aaron's name, detailing the corruption and betrayal that had almost gone unnoticed. The notebook's evidence was undeniable, and within hours, authorities were raiding his offices. Aaron was arrested, his smug confidence replaced by fury as cameras captured his downfall. With Aaron behind bars, my name was finally cleared. My family, overwhelmed by guilt, tried to apologize, but the damage was done. I moved to a new city, determined to rebuild my life. The scars of betrayal remained, but they were a reminder of my strength. A strength no one could take from me. And for the first time in years, I felt free.